Hello and welcome to the SAIPAR Podcast, where we're shaping ideas and informing change. My name is Maria and I'm your host. Today we're joined by Gugulethu, who is a research affiliate here at SAIPAR. She'll be telling us about her research and her time here in Zambia. Welcome, Gugu.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Do you know that you're our first female guest here on the podcast?
I didn't know before this, but I'm very honored, very excited.
As we start our conversation, I think it would be good for you to give us a background of your academic journey that brought you here to SAIPAR.
Yeah, of course. So I'm currently a PhD student, PhD candidate at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. This is my second year of the PhD, and before that, I started my academic journey in South Africa, where I'm from, at the University of Stellenbosch, and there I did my bachelor's in humanities, focusing on politics and philosophy. And then my master's was at the London School of Economics, and that was in philosophy and public policy. And yeah, here I am.
At SAIPAR?
Yes, that's SAIPAR.
So you've been doing politics pretty much your entire academic career, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say politics, philosophy. And at some point, it was a lot more of the philosophy, at least academically. But I was always just interested in politics. I was, sort of interested in whether I was volunteering somewhere or doing an internship somewhere or just reading and keeping updated with things. I just kind of always wanted to bring my interest and my work into the same sort of space, which is, the politics research that I'm doing now.
For the listeners, what do you mean by politics? What exactly within that field, or what is politics?
It's a good question. So politics is, it really is a good question. Politics is basically thinking about the different ways that decisions are made in terms of government. How is government formed? How are governments elected? How do governments make their decisions? So there's different aspects of politics. You could look at comparative politics if you're kind of interested in how does politics in this context, for example, in Zambia, how does it differ to, how decisions are made in the DRC, for instance. You could look at sort of theory, political theory, which is not my specialty, but and you can also sort of focus on electoral politics, which is the thing that I think a lot of people get quite fired about, is, looking at how are people elected? How does it work? Who's in charge of, where people campaign, for instance? How are votes counted? We hear about like the electoral commissions. People kind of take for granted that, this is very specialized kind of information, and maybe like the average person might not know, I think I'm also learning as I go, like what exactly electoral commissions do. But I would say, politics is just figuring out who are the people who govern us, who make the rules in society, who maintain law and order, but also what are the systems that get them where they are.
You mentioned governments and I guess the governance of the people and all of that. Whenever I think of that, I think of men. So what are you doing here?
Exactly.
What are you doing here, and what motivated that decision?
Yeah, exactly. I think I had the exact same thoughts. Every time I would think or hear people talking about politics, it was a room or a panel full of men, entire cabinets full of men in some instances, or just long histories of presidents who are men. So it almost feels natural to kind of, at some point it can feel natural for people to think of government and leadership as synonymous with men. I think the world is changing. Once upon a time, that may have been the natural order of things. based on status quo. But I think, yeah, like I think especially within the African context, we know that a lot of our homes, a lot of our communities are led by women. We have a lot of women-led households. So it's not a question of, can women understand leadership? Can women understand budgets, even how to distribute resources? All of these things are, what it takes to be a leader. These are the things that we expect from the people who become elected. This is what they say they can do, and this is what they say we should use as the basis for electing them. And so, yeah, I think if you really look at reality and look at what do our societies look like at home, in the public, in the private sphere, you see that women are always making decisions, are always taking charge. So there's this discrepancy, there's this gap between political leadership and that being synonymous with men. But same with academia, right? With research, very male-dominated industry. For a very long time, academics, philosophers, professors, people automatically assume Mr. Dr. Mr. And I think, yeah, I have a lot of things to say. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And so it only made sense for me to be drawn to politics. And I think I'm quite interested in, how will politics change and keep up with the changes that we're seeing in the rest of society. So yeah, I'm hoping that by doing this doctorate and finishing it,
Fingers crossed.
yes, and finishing it, that these are some of the ways that we quietly disrupt and change the narrative about capability and who has what it takes to understand and speak about politics.
You've been doing politics from undergrad level.
Yes.
What motivated the decision to go into that field to start with?
Yeah. So in school, and this is high school, I was involved in debating. I loved debating. Surprise, surprise. And we had a lot of cultural programs that we did, that were sort of extracurricular programs, that were aimed at understanding world issues, social issues. So debating was centered around understanding a lot of social and political issues. And I think before I even knew what I wanted to do, I knew that I was really good at debating. And I really enjoyed the thrill of, the next puzzle you would be given, which would be like, they'd give you whatever social problem and say, you defend this side, you defend that side. And not knowing how you were going to come out of it. I think I wasn't a very athletic person growing up. And so I really enjoyed, I felt like with the sports and with more athletic sort of programs, I felt like you could know how you're going to come out of it. You take one look at your opponent, you're like, okay, we have this, we're winning. But I think with debating and public speaking and problem solving, sort of social real issues, you don't really know. You can't take one look at your opponent and say, oh, we have this. And so, I think I really enjoyed being challenged. And I think there was some kind of satisfaction that I got from understanding things that typically people would say, this is too complicated for you. Or we can't explain it, because you just invest the time. And I think if people have access and exposure and patience, anybody can really grasp any concept.
Okay. And so high school and then undergrad, it was a no-brainer to go into the field, okay?
Yes.
And then master's, like I must.
Yeah. I mean, so with undergrad, it was more, so the degree that I did was humanities, and that was more of a kind of a mixture, combination of social sciences. So I did literature, and this is English literature, did philosophy and politics, and I started to see the ways that philosophy and politics were related. And so I really, really enjoyed philosophy purely for the intellectual fun of it. It just was, there was sort of these different kinds of problems and these different puzzles that you could just sit and tackle and play around with. And so I really enjoyed that mostly. The politics I kind of kept because I was somebody who's passionate about how do we solve the problems? How do we solve the problems in the world right now? Like, we can have fun philosophically, which I enjoyed, but also the problems needed to be solved. So I think I kept those two together. And yeah, when it came to masters, I was dreaming of merging the two, of having politics and philosophy. For a while, it was like, okay, well, where are you going to get this program? But I think it was specifically public policy. So I was like, philosophy teaches you a way of problem solving that's really expansive. And then public policy is like, no time for dreaming, solve the problems right now. People need water. What do we do right now? What's the intervention? People aren't voting. What is the intervention? How do we fix it? So I think, yeah, I was really fortunate to find a program that kind of merged the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now into the PhD.
Yes.
Second year. Congratulations.
We did it. We did it and we're doing it. Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you working on in your PhD?
So the PhD project is focused on African politics to begin with. So I'm quite interested in turning the lens inward onto African politics, and mainly looking at election campaigns. So we're looking at how people are elected, how people create their campaigns. I'm specifically interested in a group of actors called political consultants or campaign consultants, just because, you know, when we see election campaigns and it's campaigning time, we always see the front or the people in front, so the candidates, the people that they have next to them when they have their speeches, but there's also the people in the background who are making all the decisions about where we're going to campaign next, what pictures are we going to put on the posters, the people writing the speeches. So many different decisions and components of running an election campaign is managed by people behind the scenes that a lot of people don't ever get to see. And I think they play an increasingly important role. And so I'm just interested in that group of people who do that work behind the scenes. How do they work? Who are they? How do they work with other people within the context of campaigns? How do they work with the media? How do they work with, advocates and activists, with different political parties? So yeah, I'm quite interested in, what that working relationship is like.
Okay, so you've mentioned the African context generally, but does your research focus on a specific country or a specific group of countries?
Yeah, so my research focuses on Zambia and Kenya. So those are my two case studies. And I'm currently here doing my data collection. I'm hosting a number of interviews with, different key informants. And then the second phase of this will be in Kenya, where I do the same thing.
Okay. I'm forced to ask you how your stay is in Zambia.
Yes.
And here at SAIPAR as well. What has your experience
Yeah.
been as you are collecting your data?
It's been amazing. And I'm not just saying it. I promise. I'm a truth teller. I'm a truth seeker. I wouldn't lie. It's been really amazing. I think PhD and just academics, I think you can testify to this with your own journey, is very fast-paced, and it can feel a little bit cutthroat. You kind of feel like you're on a hamster hill, and just the pace and the tempo of it can get quite consuming. And I think I really prioritized being in the kind of mental space where I can slow down, or where I'll be forced to slow down. And I think Zambia has been amazing for just slowing down. I like to tell people that when I arrived here, I was like, oh, I'm really laid back, I'm really chill, I'm super calm, I don't rush. And then I arrived in Zambia, and the level of calm and relaxed and unhurried that I see here is, yeah, it's giving me a run for my money. So I've definitely adapted to that pace. I think people have been so open and so generous with their time. There've been a number of times where I've, solicited people for an interview, and I thought, just prepare for the no.
Yeah.
Prepare for the no. They're busy. They won't have the time, and just the generosity and openness with time has been incredible. It's been incredible.
Am I allowed to ask what you found so far in Zambia in terms of your research?
In terms of the research, yeah. I can't tell you a lot, but
You can redact some of the portions.
Of course, highly redacted.
Yeah.
I think some of the things that are emerging. So I'm quite the project is interested in what is the role of consultants, of political consultants, and how do they shape the broader electoral system, whether it's institutions, whether it's with other stakeholders. How has some of their work, how have their daily considerations about what they do, how has that changed? And some of the things that I'm seeing is, firstly, political consultants are real. There's a very common misconception that, African campaigns are kind of like not that professionalized, and that they're kind of done according to like the spirit of the moment, and it's songs and it's jingles and it's merchandise and people giving gifts and things like that. But what I'm seeing is that there's a very sophisticated, very complex network of people who make campaigns happen, from inception to the messaging, to where we're going to, which sort of areas we're going to target, to it's really kind of strategic, and that it's not just a single effort of the people within the party. It's a combination of people from all walks of life. So there's this drawing in of people with different skills, whether they're in corporate, whether they're in law, whether they're in media, and also drawing in of people from across the continent. So when it's election time, it's almost like a watering hole, and people are kind of coming in from different places to kind of help the candidates. And so, that's one of the things. I think to sum it up, I'm realizing just how massive it is and how coordinated campaign work is. And I guess that extends to how developed the industry is.
How long are you going to be here in Zambia doing your data collection?
So I have about 2 more months left. I've been here for 3 months now, so a good while.
A good while.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And at the time you be leaving Zambia, what do you hope to have achieved? What do you hope to have collected or learned?
So this is I'm quite a nervous person, but nervous in the sense that I plan to the T. I like to plan things to the T. And so before I even came here, I was sort of sitting with this, like, what are the things that I want to achieve before I even, arrived? So the one thing that has been a recurring thing has been, I'm obviously not from Zambia. I wasn't born in Zambia. I haven't lived for an extended amount of time in Zambia until now. And to speak about the politics and the social lives and, the workings of a particular place, you need to have a lot of context. And so what I really was hoping for was to have just fully immerse myself in just the culture, in the pace, in the language, and the way that Zambians think and kind of move, so that I can speak from a place of kind of internal authority, or a place of confidence. And I was really worried about, like, how do you know when you have enough context to speak about a place that you're not from? And another researcher who was here at the time, I think I was speaking with her. She's a much more mature, sort of, seasoned academic, and I was telling her about this fear that I have, and she said, just immerse yourself completely. It doesn't have to be just the work at SAIPAR. It can just be just the social life on duty, off duty, out of hours. And I think it's been great advice. So the hope was that I kind of soak everything up, and just internally reach a point where I feel like I can say some of these things with conviction and not feel like I'm grasping from thin air or I'm exaggerating things or understating things. But yeah, so I would say that full immersion. Yeah.
How did you end up at SAIPAR? Why SAIPAR? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, my supervisors played a huge role in terms of helping me get settled. Yeah, and so they had done some work with people here at SAIPA. They had done research as well. My one supervisor has done research here before, and in 2021, he was here doing research on the previous election. And so, yeah, he had contacts here of people who would be great resources, but also it was like, as an institution, SAIPA is a great place to set up. And it's been great. It's been amazing. I can't emphasize.
What's
Honestly,
the experience been like as an
yeah.
academic who's working here at SAIPAR or who's using the resources and connections that SAIPAR has to aid
Yeah.
your research? How's that been?
I think the main thing about SAIPA is it's a beautiful space to be in. It's really lovely to just sit in a space where other people are working. It's great for just the morale and the solidarity when you don't really feel like you want to do work.
Yeah.
But there's other people who are doing serious business around you, so that energy is quite helpful. But I think the amazing thing about SAIPA is the value add that you get is so relational, and a lot of it is just conversations that you have in passing with people. It's, you know, mentioning a name, or just as I'm trying to soak up all this context that I'm reading the papers, I feel like people are also generally very knowledgeable here. Like, it doesn't matter what department they're in, how long they've been here, people have a sense. They'll be able to point you in the direction of, you know, somebody who can make sense of whatever you're asking. So it's nice to just have a chat with people and they can share their perspectives about, you know, what's going on. The contacts that I've gotten just from people here at SAIPA have been so helpful. I think a lot of people, I think SAIPA is just like really established as a, I want to say think tank, but just as a research institution that's kind of, you know, it draws people from different aspects of Zambian social, sort of political spaces. And so, yeah, it's helped bridge a lot of what would have felt like inaccessibility for me, just by way of introductions, by way of even just explaining the landscape to me and just being like, are these people, did this person work here? What happened to this party? Okay, that party is not there. What is this alliance? Who's there? Just very basic things. It's been really great to have people who have a good sense of all of that and have good relationships with these people, because if they didn't have good relationships with them, every time I called people, they would have been like, who gave you my number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the end of that.
Yeah.
Okay. To do your research, you're doing 6 months here in Zambia and then another 6 in Kenya.
Yes. Yes.
Who do I talk to to be able to fund that as well? How are you able to do it? I mean, it's very
Yeah.
important work and I can see its relevance, but
Yeah.
where's the money coming from?
To be fair, getting the funding, mission, absolute mission. It was really, really challenging. So, the University of Edinburgh has a very limited number of scholarships. They have them for each college. So if somebody applies to a particular college, there'll be a college scholarship. And then there are some sort of generalized scholarship that speak either specifically to the area of work that you're doing. There's some for sort of anthropology focused projects. There'll be some for sociology projects. For me, applied to them, but you know,
Life happened.
yeah, life happened, and no, really, it's really competitive, and there's not nearly enough funding made available for the amount of interest or people who get accepted into these programs. So I had to go door to door, knocking, writing to any organization, foundation, corporates, nonprofits, whether they offered scholarships or not, sort of, writing for support. And yeah, it was really difficult because it's a doctorate and that's 3 years minimum.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite a difficult thing for organizations to make that kind of money available, especially when they don't know when you might, finish.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to write to a charitable foundation that's based in the US. And yeah, they sort of they fund philanthropic projects and scholarships and yeah, girls and women's education, amongst other things. And yeah, I got that. It was very generous of them, and without them, it would have been tough.
I wouldn't have met you.
I wouldn't have met you. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have met everybody here. Yeah, no, it's been really helpful. I think like funding is probably one of the biggest barriers when it comes to doing PhDs for a lot of people. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't be more fortunate.
That's lovely to hear. So now we move to Kenya.
Yes.
After you're done here in Zambia, you go to Kenya for 6 months.
Yes.
Doing the exact same thing.
Doing the exact same thing. But also the terrain will determine, how things pan out, how similar or how differently things will pan out. Also the institution there. So I plan to be based at a research institute in Kenya as well, a little bit similar to SAIPAR with other academics. And yeah, to just have sort of local people who understand the space to help, make those connections and to also just bounce my thinking off of. Yeah, and that'll be interviews, 6 months of interviews in Kenya. Looking forward to it. A little bit nervous because, yeah, it's two very different countries. They have their similarities, but yeah, very different contexts.
And when you're leaving Kenya, what do you expect to have achieved?
Yeah, I think quite similar to here. I hope to have been able to immerse myself enough in, the broader context of Kenyan politics and Kenyan social life and, the cultural sort of spaces, to be able to, to sort of speak with authority, but also to make connections with people. I think that's quite a big component of this time in my life as well. It's obviously the research brings me here, but I also, I wanted to do work in these countries because one, they were academically interesting context cases to work on. There are similarities in terms of just the practicality of, the actual questions that I'm asking. It's a really good sort of case studies to compare. But also, I wanted to be in Zambia and I wanted to be in Kenya. It's a long time to be in a place if you kind of didn't really care where you were. So I think I was also able to do this amount of time because I really appreciate the place. And hopefully I think that's going to be the situation with Kenya as well.
Okay. You've mentioned something about like the similarities and the dissimilarities between Zambia and Kenya. I can think of some off the top of my head, but then I think you should answer this question for me. Why Zambia and Kenya is your,
Yeah. So for the specific topic around political consultants, when I was conceptualizing the study, I was drawn to particularly the visibility of foreign political consultants who are from, the UK and the US, working on campaigns in Zambia and in Kenya. And it was quite an interesting comparison because in Kenya there was quite a high visibility of the firms that were working there. And in Zambia, it was kind of more low key, and you kind of had to know, you had to have a good sense of things in order to get a good sense of, oh, these are the firms that work here, they worked on this campaign. So it felt like slightly similar things were kind of, or similar trends were occurring in the two countries. But also looking at historically the sort of the path towards independence, the post-independence politics. So where you have the introduction of multi-party politics, round about the same time, a number of sort of, when you look at the makeup of the ethnic and the social sort of groupings, you have this very highly pluralistic sort of makeup, and kind of similar parliamentary sort of electoral systems as well. So yeah, it's like it's quite nice to have good comparable cases where you can look at the makeup of parliament, you can look at how elections are, you know, how leaders are elected, and have a good starting point to compare. It would have been a little bit difficult with, you know, my home country, South Africa, because we have a representative proportion, representative sort of system of electing our leaders. So yeah, I think the constituency systems make that a little bit easier to contextualize as well.
Okay. So after you're done, in what, a year's time?
Yes,
About? Fingers crossed.
Joe willing, yeah.
What then? What do you want to do with this? Are you running for presidency of the Earth, the Milky Way galaxy? Like, what exactly do you want to do with that? Yep.
I don't think I want to go into partisan politics.
Okay.
But also, yeah, it should be quite straightforward, right? It should be like you get your PhD, you become an academic. Um, I like to say that I don't know who I'll be in a year's time. I could do this and say that was a great adventure. Thank you for the good vibes. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the opportunity to, you know, discover something new, write a little bit about it, and choose to go a different route to academia. Because academia needs stamina. And yeah, I think I enjoy it right now. It's the season that I'm in right now. But it's not necessarily. So I'm not kind of fixated on going straight into academia. Because yeah, I think PhD just gives you a lot of skills that you could apply in a number of different, you know, sectors, organizations. And yeah, I don't want to box myself in terms of my thinking. I probably could enjoy it. I do think I would like to teach at some point. Yeah, it's really invigorating. It's, you know, it's quite nice to hear what young people are thinking and saying.
Say it as a young person.
I'm
That's
young
ridiculous.
people. I'm young people. But yeah, we are growing. We don't realize how quickly we're growing. Like not too long ago, I remember being the youngest person in many rooms. You blink and you're not the youngest person in the room anymore. And I think, yeah, it's very important, but especially in the African like political context, to pass the torch and make sure that the people who are coming up, who are younger than, who are kind of sidelined, also have the space to, you know, establish and learn and speak out and discover like what their own interests are and the value of their own voice. So yeah, I really enjoy that aspect of teaching. It feels like passing a torch of knowledge. Um, Politics,
That's fair. That's more than fair.
yeah, I think it takes a lot to get political work done. And, you know, the way that this research kind of looks at, you know, the electoral space is that it looks at it as an ecosystem where it needs a lot of people. In order for governments to work, in order for politics to work, you need an ecosystem of different actors. You need journalists, you need, you know, advocacy for transparency, you need commissions, you need human rights, and, you know, lawyers, you need your policymakers, you need everybody. You need feminist organizations, grassroots mobilization organizations. So there's a whole ecosystem where I could find myself and where I feel like I could still be contributing to, electoral justice, political justice.
But you're not running for president. Unfortunate.
I can't comment on that.
Okay. Looking forward to when you do.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, it has been a pleasure to have you here. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Closing remarks, unfortunately.
No, get your PhD. Black
Oh,
women,
come
get
on.
your PhDs.
Yeah.
We need more Black women doing their doctorates, honestly. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who speak authoritatively about Africa, who don't have the kind of, misgivings or like nervousness about, am I representing people accurately? Do I understand the context fully enough before I speak? And as an African who, I probably shouldn't feel that much of a fear, because yeah, I feel like there already is that openness and that willingness to understand and to reckon with difference. But yeah, I think we're reckoning right now with, representations from a lot of places. And sometimes, yeah, we're realizing that the things that have been written about Africa, African history, politics are not necessarily true, aren't helpful. And so, yeah, as we talk about like decolonizing knowledge and just democratizing knowledge, we need people from the soil. We need people who understand the social background and the context to feel more brave about speaking with authority.
And building on that knowledge, yeah?
Yes, and building on that knowledge. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gugu.
Thank you, Maria.
It's been a pleasure to have you.
It's been
very
good.
refreshing.
Yeah.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. See you in the next one.